C'est tout bon. Good evening, everybody. Hope you are well. My name is Jörg Balziger. I'm the director of the Master in Innovation, Human Development and Sustainability. I'm a professor at the Department of Geography and Environment and the Institute for Environmental Sciences. And since this is a master's in English, I'm going to present it to you in English as well. The slides are in English as well. We have only half an hour, so I'm going to go through the slides fairly quickly to give you enough time to ask questions. This is the last slot of the evening for presentations of programs. So if you do have questions after and you have nowhere else to go, I'm going to stick around for a while, so don't hesitate to come up. But I want to cover a number of key things in the program, because I know the flyer only gives you some points and not others. So, this is a master that's really in sustainable development. The title, of course, brings together a number of different terms, and you will see how they play a role. But above all, for me personally also, the reason why you would want to do this master is because you're interested in sustainable development. Sustainable development, you probably will have understood, even though of late it has become sort of a sport to criticize the concept. It is the concept that's going to be the main challenge in this century. And you can think of the solidity of the concept, what you like. It is the concept under these terms, sustainable development, that has been anchored internationally, nationally, locally, legally, in practice, and for better or worse, it's something that Kofi Annan told us already more than 20 years ago will concern us in a major way this century, and it will, and even more so as time goes on. We do know, though, that sustainable development is an idea that evolves in time, and this evolution in time is something that we take into account in this master's. Currently, the standard operationalization of sustainable development are the SDGs, which you probably have seen the logos everywhere, but know that they have a shelf life. They will run out in 2030, as did the Millennium Development Goals in 2015. And so the official conversation about their replacement will start if you choose to apply and get accepted during your time in this master's. So this is a really interesting time. It is a time also when we have known for a couple of years already, or maybe more if you want to take into account the start of COVID, that we're completely off track. We're off track with achieving the Sustainable Development Goals because they were ambitious and they were meant to be, but also because a number of crises have intervened since 1920. And the current Secretary General, who himself will be replaced next year, I believe, has told the community of countries for some time that we are off track. We are off track not only because some of the developments are going in the wrong direction, but also because we simply don't seem to, and I don't want to use the royal we, because we can pinpoint very clearly where certain responsibilities for the current challenges lie. We simply don't know how to accelerate the transition that we all know is needed, the transformation. We have a fairly good idea of how to address a fairly good number of problems, but we're not very good at figuring out how we can accelerate this. And this master's, in a way, is much about this question. And that's where the innovation comes in, and that's where the human development comes in. We have a number of developments currently going on. Discussions for what happens after 2030 have already started. For now, it's the pundits and the scientific experts who weigh in the debate. The official debate of the countries will start most likely next year. We have this year the 80th anniversary of the UN. There are discussions starting now to revise the Charter of the UN. This is a discussion that partly is taking place here in Geneva, but will be officially launched next year as well. And at the same time, we have developments outside this UN domain where sustainable development, of course, is the language of every day. Developments relating to AI, developments relating to sustainable finance that bring new impulses and perhaps a need to reflect on what it is that a reformed UN should be doing. Or what we as citizens, as students, as practitioners, as professionals, as brothers, sisters, parents, children need to think about in everyday life. So this Masters, of course, I don't need to tell you this, you're the local audience, is going to be for some of its duration here in Geneva. But only some of its duration. And Geneva, as you know, is the second most important UN hub in the world. It is a city that depends more than most people realize on these international jobs. Some figures here that I'll let you look up after the presentation, but know that for every job generated in international Geneva, and there's roughly 36,000 of them, half a position is created outside that international Geneva. So Geneva, which is a small city, a small region, depends quite a bit on this. And it is an environment that you can take advantage of through this master and other masters too, of course. You know where the international Geneva is. This Masters is more or less headquartered at what we call the SDG Solution Space, which is at the Biotech campus over in Secheron, surrounded by UN buildings. And it is one that is not just run by the University of Geneva. That's important to know. It was created very soon after the adoption of the 2030 Agenda, in a conversation between China and Switzerland at the WEF. It eventually trickled down to the university, where my colleague and former dean of the Geneva School of Social Sciences, Bernard de Barbieux, was tasked to create this master's in collaboration with Tsinghua University. So the initial idea was to have a dual degree master's with the University of Tsinghua. In parallel, we launched what we call the single degree track, and I'll explain in more detail what those two entail and what differentiates them. I think what's important for you to know is that if you were to apply and get accepted, your cohort would be the 10th anniversary cohort, so plenty of opportunity to celebrate, but also plenty of opportunity to reflect on what it is that we're doing and could be doing better. So at the very start, there was some funding from a local foundation whose name doesn't want to be named. I think many of you know which one I'm talking about, but there was excuse me, a larger vision and mission for this Masters as part of a broader initiative to kind of orient graduate education towards challenge-based learning, which is something that is making inroads at the university, but not everywhere. Try to bring innovation into education so that this necessary acceleration could perhaps take place, and do it in partnership with the Tsinghua University, which is one of China's most important and well-known universities that has a counterpart to our units here at the university. Excuse me. Here at the university, we have the Geneva School of Social Sciences, the Institute for Environmental Sciences, and the Geneva School of Economics and Management, so GESEM. ISE and SDS, and they share the responsibility and some common funding for this master's. And this comes through in the specializations, which I'll explain in a minute. The focus is very much on this complex domain in which sustainable development unfolds. And this domain we try to bring to the students through a mix of inputs from academics and from practitioners. We want to bring in a mix also of different perspectives, so it's not just a question of the UN, but also NGOs, private sector, public authorities, from local to global levels. That's why you have this multi-stakeholder, multi-scale governance of sustainable development. And I think that's an important point. This is not a master in development studies. I think if you're interested in classic development studies, projects in developing countries, you will find the space in this master to do that, but you will not have the same kind of coherent coursework that you would find at Sussex, say, or really a specialized master in development studies. And the reason for this is that, in contrast to the MDGs, the SDGs were adopted by all countries, and so they are of relevance and under the responsibility of countries here, as well as in the global south. We have classic academic instruction, we have lectures. What you see here actually are a number of pictures from what we call the SDG Solution Space at the Biotech Campus over at Secheron, which is a fantastic space to teach and learn, and especially to work in groups, which is something that you would be doing quite a lot, and I really emphasize quite a lot. We try to simulate in this master's the kinds of professional situations that you will find yourself in the future. So we don't assume there to be a set of skills we can give you like a Swiss Army knife and then you finish the master's and you go around and apply it. No, we try to show you what work in the world after you finish studies looks like. And a lot of that looks like group work. But I think it's also a fantastic opportunity to get to know really the colleagues in the cohort. And that's where maybe this master is somewhere between classic graduate studies and continued education, because a fair bit of learning you will do will be peer learning. And a lot of that, of course, takes place in groups. We do have some excursions and some field work that shouldn't be, a draw, because depending on where you go, you might have to fly, and that's not a good thing for the most part. But we have, of course, courses that go to places nearby as well, whether that be Marseille or Milan, often in the context of working with partners to think about how a particular neighborhood or a particular city could address particular sustainability challenges, often in the context of international competitions with other student groups from other countries. It's really fantastic opportunities, and ones where our students have tended to do quite well. We have also local topics, of course, but if you're really interested in local development sustainability issues, there's a master called Sasha from my colleague Marlene Sahakian, which is also in English, more sociology oriented, and they do a lot more local case studies. We do try to bring students around Geneva, because most of them are international students, to also show them things like the energy system at the eco-neighborhood in Les Vergers. So we have two tracks. The first, what we call the dual degree track, involves a year in Geneva. If you apply, which I assume you would, to start in Geneva, you can also apply to start at Tsinghua. In which case you would spend the first year at Tsinghua and then the second year. But assuming you would apply to start here, you'd have 1 year of coursework. You would have a mandatory internship, which involves what we call an internship report, but is really a practice-based master's thesis. You can take a third semester, if you will, but it's more complicated if you start here in Geneva, simply because the Tsinghua year really starts in fall. Then you have 2 semesters in Beijing at Tsinghua. You have an academic thesis there. So in 2.5 to 3 years, you get 2 master's degrees. So you get the Master of Innovation, Human Development, and Sustainability from the University of Geneva, and from Tsinghua you get a Master of Science in Management Science. It used to be the famous Master of Public Management at Tsinghua, which is no longer the case because there are certain conditions that apply to getting that degree, which most of our students do not comply with. Then we have the single degree track, which is 1 degree from the University of Geneva. You have the same 1 year of coursework, which you spend with the dual degree students, both those who start here and those who will come after having spent their first year at Tsinghua. Then you have a mandatory semester abroad. And then typically you would come back. Most of the students, regardless of whether they do the dual or single degree, do an internship and base their thesis on the internship. So you would come back, do your internship, write your thesis, defend it, and that's that. Usually 2 years, 2.5 years at most, but you know the usual University of Geneva rules apply, which mean you have 6 semesters maximum. The semester abroad is in a number of universities with which we have specific agreements, meaning they reserve spaces for us in the context of agreements that the University of Geneva has with them. So we have a whole range. They all have their advantages and disadvantages. Some, obviously, in Dakar you need to know French. Some of the universities in Colombia you need to know Spanish. But all of them are really fantastic places. Not everybody wants to go to UCLA, the Luskin School, but it is, of course, an interesting and popular destination. And we're constantly trying to get other destinations on board. Here I have 2 that I colored in orange. One is Copenhagen, simply because the University of Geneva is part of the EU4+ Alliance, which means we have quite a large contingent of places for Copenhagen, and our students, we allow them to compete for those, or Kenyatta in Nairobi in Kenya, which has quite a flexible approach to incoming students, so there's always places there. What's actually involved in your year at the University of Geneva? You have a number of compulsory courses, you have a number of elective courses, and then you have 3 specializations. And you can, if you're currently here, you can access the study plan and look in detail at what that entails. Know that the compulsory courses are typically ones that we reserve for the students of this master. Whereas the specialization courses and the elective courses you would typically take with other students from other masters. You have a thesis or an internship report. Thesis is the term we use for the single degree. Internship report is the term we use for the dual degree, because there the internship is mandatory. But it's more or less the same thing. The internships are based on an internship agreement signed between the university, the internship organization, the director of the program, and the supervisors. Some examples of elective courses for this coming year. Of course, we haven't had the study plan approved yet, but most of the courses are pretty stable. You may know some of them. Or the instructors involved. Some of those are also from the Global Studies Institute, some are from the Institute for Environmental Sciences, some are from the management part or the economics part of the business school. Some are from Geneva School of Social Sciences, of course. Maybe you will recognize some of those. They don't evolve so much from one year to the next, but of course this is without guarantee. We always hope to have more. But it is now the case that students can take courses outside their chosen specialization, in another specialization, and count them as elective courses, which after 8 years, finally, we were able to bring through with the partners. We have an SDG internship program. Since we impose an internship on the dual degree students, we also have to make sure we have spaces for them. So we have an internship coordinator, and we have been quite successful since 2017. So in the first, let's say, 8th edition, because the current 9th edition has not started the internships yet. We have with some organizations specific agreements that cover a number of spaces for internships, especially ITU, International Telecommunications Union. We used to also have that with OHCHR, the officer of the High Commissioner for Human Rights. But we have, of course, mostly intergovernmental organizations, but we also have NGOs in the private sector. Oftentimes, students go out on their own initiative, and because they're quite competitive, they do get good internships. But be under no illusion, the large majority of internships are unpaid. But in the single degree, you're not obliged to do an internship. You can also do the internship somewhere else, and we see more and more students. I don't know if this is a result of the UNAIDS reform that's kicking in Geneva, but more and more students who try to add an internship onto their exchange semester, whether that be in Beijing, or in Kenya, or in Dakar, or elsewhere in Europe. We have 3 specializations: Sustainable Human Development, which is managed by the Business School; Sustainable Consumption, Production, and Organizations, which is organized and coordinated together with the SACHA Masters. SACHA is the Social Change and Sustainability. And Future Cities and Regions, which are more the urban studies folks, both at G3S and the Institute for Environmental Sciences. And in each of the specializations, I'll not go through the details of the courses, you have the same structure. You have a prerequisite that you have to take in the fall. You have a 12-credit practical hands-on workshop in the spring. And then you have 2 courses that you need to take out of a set of 3, what we call the specialization electives or specialization courses. And those are typically ones that would be offered also in other masters. The internships, as I said, they're mandatory in the dual degree. We ask that they be 3 months full-time or the equivalent. We have, as you saw on the previous slide, quite a number of... We have placed some 250 students in internships with around 130 different organizations. And I think that's really something that draws students to this master's. Because a lot of these organizations, they've known us for a long time. They know the students who are in this master's are highly qualified, even though some organizations will want to work with the Graduate Institute. Our students tend to get good internships too. And of course, they're the ones that can lead to a job after. The year in Beijing is at the School of Public Policy and Management at Tsinghua University, which is the first graduate school of public policy in China. It's quite an impressive setup. They are linked to a number of research institutes. They have a number of international and Chinese degree programs. They have a lot of famous people who come through. They have, you can tell, they have resources for their programs. Of course, let's be under no illusion here. This is also the program where a lot of the Chinese elite goes through. But our students who have chosen to either do an exchange semester there or do a dual degree, they end up with a CV after their masters that is not to be underestimated, whatever you think about studying in China. They don't have specializations, although they do try to align some of their courses with our specializations, so there's some continuity for those who do the second year there, or preparation for those who do the first year there. Set of mandatory courses. It is a school of public policy and management, so you tend to have these kinds of courses, but in the electives you will find quite a range of different courses that are quite interesting. What do you do after this master's? The world is your oyster. Of course, you end up as a generalist still. So there's no set job like lawyer or doctor or accountant that you will have on your business card. But you will be the person who understands the connections between issues, who will have finished graduate school with a set of practical skills, and who will have the language and the understanding to function in very diverse contexts related to sustainable development. We do find that students have opportunities through their internships. We also do find that it may take a couple of years to get established in a career because you finish the master's with a skill set that would really already put you, a couple years ahead of an entry-level position, but that you might not necessarily get unless you already have that experience coming into the master. But you end up with an ability to position yourself in a variety of professional contexts, which is why I throw everything up there. And we do have students who go in all these different directions. I'll stop here. Sorry that took a bit longer, but I'll open up now for questions. The questions won't be recorded, I am told. So anything you want to know, please go ahead. Yes, please.
Thank you for the presentation. I want to know how many students, what's the ratio between how many students apply?
It's about 1 in 7 that get accepted. Or 1 in 7 that come. Maybe 2 in 7 that get an offer, but we know these days it's easy to apply in multiple places, so we offer more than we have places. Roughly, we try to have 45 to 50 per year. 15 to 20 of those will come from Tsinghua for the second year here. That leaves 30 to 35 spaces for applicants to Geneva, and we have anywhere around 220 applications.
And after the specialization, how many students per class?
The specializations, they're quite evened out. There may be some variation per year, but it's usually between 13 and 15 per specialization. Maybe a little more in the sustainable consumption production organization, simply because the workshop is also required from the SASHA students. In the urban future cities and regions workshop, you may sometimes get the students from the Master in Territorial Development or the Master in African Studies, whereas in Sustainable Human Development, you don't get so many from other masters, but you will have all those who are interested in getting some hard economic skill. Other questions? The academic advisor for this master's is Yali Chen. I should have really put up the names, I apologize for that, but if you Google the Master of Innovation, Human Development, Sustainability, you find my name, Jörg Balziger. I'm Swiss German, I admit. So just write to me anytime or write to Yali if you have questions. This recording should be available in the next days on the website of the Soirée des Masters. And so you can go through it again. I guess the slides will be available there as well. Yes, so if you have any other questions, come see me after. Otherwise, I hope to see your candidacy.
Thank you.